this is what you're going to see. So before we proceed, I'd like to just tell us some things and probably make us aware of what this is and why we are doing what we are doing. So basically, yeah, Illustrator is like is a vector-based application, and when we proceed to create an interface, I'm going to show us an example of difference between a vector-based application and a pixel-based application. So when you talk about pixel-based application, you are looking at the likes of Photoshop or any other photo editing software. So the concept of picture-based is that they are made of pixels. So if you were to find a picture on your phone or on your laptop and you zoom in, at some point you are going to be seeing some boxes. We are going to get there. But note that Adobe Illustrator is a vector-based application. And the concept of vector is that whatever you are seeing on the screen, it is created using some kind of mathematics, such that you can take the file and print it in on a sheet of paper as large as from here to America, and it's not going to be pixelated. We are going to get there. So Adobe Illustrator is a vector-based application by Adobe. The largest competitor to Illustrator is CorelDRAW, which is what most Nigerians commonly use. But in recent time, I can see a transition where most designer jobs, they will ask you to have a knowledge in Adobe Suite. Adobe Suite includes Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, Dreamweaver, and if you're a UX UI designer, XD. So at the back of our mind, for those of us that do not know, let's know that when you are thinking of vector-based design or designs that you are going to print, that is where Illustrator thrives. So when you launch Illustrator, this is what you are expected to see. You are going to see the start menu. This is called the start menu. And if you can see here, even though I tell you that Adobe Illustrator is a vector-based application that is used to design things you find for prints, you can see around here that you have an artboard called iPhone X. You also have an icon here that says HDV, HDTV. So aside using it to design business card, logo, flyer, banner, and its like, you can also find Illustrator useful when you're creating. For example, let me just create this. I'm not going to work on it. I'll just freestyle and show you what it looks like. So you have this. So you can imagine this to be an Android application, or I mean an iPhone application. So this is iPhone interface, and I can just freestyle and show you. So if you're to be doing UI UX design, you can also find Illustrator helpful. Let me close this out so we don't get distracted. So on the start menu, whenever you open any application, definitely you have this kind of interface. Then you proceed to do whatever you want to do. But the starting point for Illustrator is creating a document. So if you look on the left side of the screen, you can see some options here that says Home. If you'd like to learn Illustrator at your free time, you can click on Learn, and it's going to give you some tasks or assignments to do. Outside this class, I believe you should also try to work on this because it is very interactive and it can take you from the 0 level to hero level. That's a very fun time. So you can learn Adobe Illustrator using this step-by-step instruction, and it can give you a good overview about the application. For more advanced tutorials, you can always scroll down and you can see it shows you the time it's going to take to run through the tutorial. So outside this brief overview, because I should tell you, Illustrator is so wide that we cannot cover the whole features of the application within 4 hours. So in your free time, you can learn that. And also we have a plan for advanced class where myself and other designer in Tel Valley, we can like literally copy and paste our brain into yours as far as this application is concerned. We're going to talk about that later. So after the next option we have is your work, which I have some why is it okay? So cloud documents, I do not have any. Deleted works, I do not have any. The concept of this your work is like if you have a cloud job, because Adobe Illustrator has something called cloud library. If you can see here, I have signed in. I have my account here that is like a cloud storage for Adobe Illustrator, where I can copy my files and access them anywhere in the world, which is one of the cool features of Illustrator. And whatever you do in Illustrator, if you copy it to the cloud, you can always access it in Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere Pro, or any other Adobe application. So that's a cool thing. The next important option here is to create a new Adobe Illustrator file, or to open an existing file. So in this case, I'm going to create a new document. And when you create when you click on the create new document option, you are met with a lot of somewhat confusing menu that has all this kind of measurements. So don't let it bother you. In some cases, you'd always have a dimension to work with. If you become a graphic designer or you are a graphic designer, you find your client telling you, I want to design this, the dimension is 12 inches by 8 feet, or 12 inches by something inches. So on this interface, all the options you need to create a new document is available to you. You can see this is recent. If you were to be creating it for the first time, it's possible that you do not have any items in this list. So the recent items means these are the ones I've worked with recently or in the past. So let's ignore this section for now, and let's look at this part of the screen. You can see there's a part that says width, and there's a part that says height. So this is basically just basic measurement, the size of your the how wide your design is, and the height of your design. So there are different measurements for design as far as creating a document is concerned. Pixels, the reason why it defaulted to pixel was because the last thing I created is this iPhone X. But if you were to be doing design, in most cases, you work with either inches or feet, as the case may be, or centimeters. But based on my knowledge in Nigeria, they basically get to work with, most printers or designers get to work with inches. So I'm going to toggle this to inches. And in a case where you're not given a dimension to work with by your client, just like I said that Illustrator is a vector-based program, whatever size that you design in, they can always scale it as large as they can. So imagine if you were to make a design in 1 inch by 1 inch, which is going to be very small. The person you are sending the file to can scale it to 1,000 inches or 1 million inches, and it's not going to lose quality, which is the concept of vector-based design. So this part, there's no more to it than this is where you create your the dimension of your design. And also let's move to the next option, which is color mode. So when it comes to color mode, we have just two options in any graphics design application or world. These are the two color modes you're going to find. So color mode affects what your design is going to look like in print. If you are using something on screen, the default standard for color on screen is RGB, which means red, green, and blue. So the technical background of what is happening as far as picture is concerned is when you mix a red channel with a green channel and a blue channel, that is when you see a very clear picture. So when you combine all those colors together, you get a picture or a pixel, as the case may be. The alternative is CMYK. For some of us that might have experience in printing, you might have a case where the printer says color your jadeni for Yoruba, if you understand Yoruba, or the color is not showing, the color is not available. It happens sometimes because CYMK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So when you are printing, a general printer has just 4 colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So imagine if you want to print a color purple, the printer knows, okay, I mix 20% of cyan, 1% of magenta, 50% of yellow, and just a little tint of black to get the color. So in the background, that is what is happening. So when you're choosing color mode in Illustrator, you should have at the back of your mind if you are using the design for print or you are using it on the screen. And also maybe a little tip as far as printing is concerned. In some cases, you don't necessarily need to use RGB for print only. You can use RGB if you are using something called direct print. As far as printing is concerned, you can use is either DI. You might have heard it before. DI means direct imaging, where your design is printed as it is. In that case, you do not need to bother about CYMK. The concept of CYMK, if you are printing in CYMK, you'll have to separate the colors before they can print it. So depending on what you're doing, but just to be on the safe side, when you're doing something that will be printed, design in CYMK. So in that case, I'm going to choose CYMK, and then the screen size. The concept of screen size comes in when you are concerned about printing as well. So as you can see here, it's showing you an example. When you're printing for screen, the industrial standard is 72 ppi, which is pixel per inch. So that means in this case, for this 1 inch that I have here, I'm going to have 72 pixels within just 1 inch. So the more the PPI, the more sharp or clear your picture is. As far as printing is concerned, 300 PPI is the recommended size for printing when you are talking about PPI. So in my case, I have 1 by 1 inch, and let's say in this case I don't want 1 by 1, I want 10 by 10 inches. In most cases I always use 10 by 10 inches to do my design. Another thing to note is when you are entering this figure, you can see two icons here, and that talks about orientation. So as far as orientation is concerned, just like you have in Microsoft Word, you can have a portrait, which is like a man standing, and you have landscape, which is more like a wide angle. So a typical example of landscape is going to be when the width is more than the height, say 20 by 10. So you can see it toggled back to this. If I take it back to let the height be more than this, is going to bring it back to this. So that's the concept of orientation. And also, whenever you're creating a document in Illustrator, have at the back of your mind that you're creating something called an artboard. So that is why you have this option here. When you create one artboard, that means you're creating just imagine to be a piece of paper when you want to draw. So if you create just one artboard, it's going to create just one artboard where you can start your design. What you have here is called an artboard. I'm going to close this and create a new document so you can understand better. So if I were to increase this to 4, and let's create a new document, you can see I now have 4 artboards. So the concept of artboards is that this is an individual page on itself. Imagine if I was given a task to draw different shapes, and the different shapes should not be in the same on the same paper. So the concept of that is I'm going to have 4 artboards. I'm going to draw my basic shapes. No, then let me draw a rectangle, and I'm going to draw. It's raining. Okay, so I'm going to drag that as well. So this is the concept of artboard. So I'm going to close this out, or should I close it? Let me just create a new one. It's going to take us just to the same interface. So just like I said, I'm going to reduce this to 1, and I'll proceed to create my distance. Another option that we should note here is sometimes when you are printing, there's something called bleeding, which is just like you creating an additional space around your design, giving room for cuts. So if there So that means if we were to have a design within this space, the concept of bleeding is that instead of leaving it like this, so that they don't cut into my design, I just extend it to the edges. And that way, if they are cutting, they should be cutting within the red line so they don't eat into my design. So that is the concept of bleeding. So I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to remove bleeding, and I have this interface. So this is what you get when after you've created a new document. And just so I can illustrate this better, and to also let us know what we will be covering in the course, I'm going to open the document that I created just for this purpose. All right. So this is just a quick guide so that we know what to look for on Illustrator application. So when you look at these arrows that I've done here, it tells us what we are seeing on this interface. On the right side, we have toolbar. Toolbar can be easily explained to be, all right, I think I'm jumping the gun. This is my course outline. These are the things I believe as a basics we can learn to understand Illustrator. So we will be covering the Illustrator interface, which is what I was already diving into. We are going to look at how we can navigate the workspace, how you can find your way around, because the most essential thing in any application is that the easier you can find your way around the application, the better you can use the application, or you'll be interested in using the application. So we proceed to creating and altering basic shapes. We are going to create shapes with and transform shapes from their anchor points. We are going to see how to color and texture in Illustrator. We are going to use something called a pen tool, which is just like similar to drawing. We are going to use a shape builder tool, which is a very powerful tool in Illustrator. We are going to go and discuss. We're going to discuss Pathfinder, which is more like a way of cutting things or slicing things, as the case might be. We're going to look at type. Type is text message. Sorry, pardon for using text message. Text. So we're going to look at how we are going to use text in Illustrator, and the last part is going to be how we can group shapes, and then the final part is how you can save and export your final work. So after running through the overview, remember I said this interface that we have right here, this white space that we are seeing, is called Artboard. So you can call it anything, Canvas, Artboard, but the default name the application owner calls it is Artboard. So on the left side, just like I point here, is the toolbar. So the toolbar is where you have all the tools that you'll be using to create anything you're creating, any vector-based design that you're doing. Just so I do not forget, I said I was going to say something about pixels. So let's go to images. So I'm just going to pick a random image here. We'll copy it. All right. So on this side, I have an image. On this side, I'm just going to create a basic shape. Alright, so just like I said the other time, if I were to zoom into it, you can see this looks like a picture, but the moment I start to look into it, you can see these boxes. These are called pixels. So if we were to print these out, there is high chance that it might get blurry, because if the pixels are not much, then the printer will be confused and it's going to print these dots as it is. I might get a blurry picture. So that is the concept of pixel. These are pixels. Each box is called pixels. But as far as vector is concerned, if you zoom in from now to tomorrow, I'm zooming as I am. If you can look at the base here, you can see I'm on 64,000, and I think that's the max. So I'm already over zoomed in into the image. That's how far I can go. If I were to try to zoom in to this image 64,000, let's see what we have. At some point, that means in fact I can't even see just a box. I have to zoom out about 3,400 before I can see a particular pixel. So that's the difference, and that's what makes a vector-based application unique. So as far as this box is concerned, you can scale it as large as you want, and you're not going to get any loss of quality or distortion in the size of the pixel of the vector shape. So let's go back here. The toolbar is where you see all the tools that you need to create anything in Illustrator, and we're going to come back to that. We're going to look into those options one after the other. The menu bar these are the menu bar, and there are some options here that might be useful depending on what you're looking for. We might not be able to cover all of this, but I would show you some important aspect of this menu bar. So the control option, which I have shown here as optional, basically the control option is like a unique option interface that lets you know what you can do with a particular object. So just for example, I'm going to show you. Just go to Windows in the menu bar and check control. You can see it has added an additional feature to it. What it is adding here is similar to what I have on this part of the screen. you can see stroke, opacity, character. So in most cases, it doesn't make any sense if I have something and I also have it here. So you can either choose one or leave one without the other. So it doesn't make sense using both, and that is why we're going to turn this off. But if you want to use it, depending on what you want to do, you can always toggle both. So menu bar here, control option here, and on this part of the screen is where you have your palettes. The concept of palettes is that you can always move them around. You can move them around and you can customize them based on what you want to do. I'm going to reset this now because I want to leave it as it is. All right, so one thing you should note in Illustrator is that depending on what you're selecting, there's a properties tab here that will tell you what you can do with the current options that you have selected. You can see I'm currently selecting a text message that says menu bar control option, which is optional. I can see I have a character option here. Let's jump the gun. Just know that whatever options that you have here, it's telling you what you can do based on your current activity. If I were to start creating a shape now, the option has changed. Now I don't have the character option because I'm not working with a character. So that is how the properties panel works. And so the interface components, am I going too fast?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes, you're communicating.
All right. Any question? Any doubts? Yes, no.
Nothing yet. I'm getting it.
All right. So the interface components. All right. So one thing to note is this. This option that you have here, which is the toolbar, as of now, Illustrator by default shows you just the basic components, but there are more tools that you can use in Illustrator. Depending on what you are trying to get or what you are trying to achieve, you can go to the Windows menu and go to toolbar and advanced. So you can see as of now it's currently showing the basic, but in most cases you'd always need to use the advanced option. So remember, Windows, toolbar, then advanced. And you can see when I selected the advanced option, I can now see a different like additional tools on my left panel. So let's keep this for now. And now that we've selected this option, I can now proceed to the next option, which is interface components. So just like I said, this palette right here, depending on what you are doing, the properties panel will show you what you need to do and how to go about it. Additionally, in some cases, the properties panel might not give you all the options you want or all the options you need to get what you'd like to do. Oh. Okay, about having Illustrator 2018. I don't know what 2018 looks like as of now. In 2018, I think you have something that looks like this. Let me show you what 2018 looks like. So 2018 looks like this, but without the properties panel. So you can use it. It's almost the same feature, except that now they've added some menu like the properties panel. I don't think the properties panel will be in 2018.
Yeah,
so that is the only difference.
I think from 2015, CC 2016, it's almost the same thing, except for, yes, like you have shown the properties. But then, of course, if you're working with shapes like those rounded corners,
yeah, it might not be there. So
things that
I would personally recommend you download the latest version, because definitely the latest version of a car is better than the old versions. So
yes.
So I would definitely recommend you download the latest version so you can get the new cool features.
Nevertheless, I think with this one you can still follow the class and do virtually everything.
Except just know that whatever you are doing, you are going to have the control option at the top. and not with the properties panel here. So that would be the only difference you notice. Basically, the functionalities and everything is the same. So as I was, let me use back as I was talking. As I was saying, sometimes the properties panel might not give you all the options that you need. So I'll just run us through the basic overview we did yesterday. Yesterday we ran through this highlighted part of the screen, and we learned the interface, the navigation. We created some basic shapes, and we were able to transform some shapes with the anchor point. And just like I said yesterday, the anchor point is the middle center of any shape. So just so we can run through the overview again, remember the starting point of creating an artboard. This is what you get, and then you can put in your dimensions. We discussed the color mode, in which we have RGB and CYMK. RGB stands for red, green, blue, which are channels that you see in the picture, and then CYMK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. This is the color for print, and this is used on screen or display, as the case may be. So I'm just going to create a rough artboard so I can just briefly run through this menu like we did yesterday. So whenever you have any shape or object on your artboard, the select mode helps you select the objects, and you can use that to click and drag. And that is basically what it does. The direct selection tool can select parts of your objects, so you can scale them or do whatever you want with it. So this direct selection is basically like making it granular. You are selecting a part of interest rather than the whole object. I can also use to select the whole object by highlighting what part of it you want to select. Also, the direct tool, I think I mixed that yesterday. In some cases, you can use the direct tool to select an angle in case you want a round corner. So it gives you the option as well. So aside selecting the edges, when you select an edge, you can use this little dot to make the edge curved. That could be helpful depending on what you'd like to achieve. So remember I said the first 4 icons to the top is used to select or manipulate your object, and the last 4 at the base has to do with your artboard. So this is the magic wand. If you have multiple shapes or probably the same attributes, either color or any attribute at all, maybe stroke, color, outline, or shades. Whenever you use the magic wand, once you click on one, it looks for the rest and selects them at once. So that is how that works. And the lasso tool is more like a selection tool. You can use it to select what part of your object you want. So the pen tool, very straightforward. You can use that to draw shapes as if you are drawing using the pen tool. It has some menus. You can add anchor points, which is more like adding a spot on your objects or whatever you have in mind. You can also remove the anchor points, and that deletes these points. So whenever you are creating a shape, you always have this little boxy area, and that is your point, and you can manipulate that using this pen tool. That is basically what it does. And then we have the curvature tool, which basically is used to draw curves. So you can find that useful if you want to keep drawing spiral things. That might come handy. And then we have the text tool, which we're going to discuss fully. We skipped that yesterday, so I'm going to rush into that as soon as I'm done with the intro part. We have the line tool and some other tools here that can be used to draw lines or basic shapes. Basic lines basically. So we have the arc tool, or you can find that useful. It draws a line that is bent. The spiral, the same thing. And the rectangle grid, more like a table form, which can be useful if you want to draw probably a table, as the case may be, or you want to make it a grid by going to View, Guides, and Make Guides. So that can have numerous use depending on what you are looking for. And then we have the Shape Tool, which I discussed that. Sorry, I think I have a shape that I need to get rid of. Okay. So you can always use the Shape Tool to create whatever you want to create. Most complex design starts with basic shapes. So depending on what you're going for, you can use these shapes to create stuff. I remember if you just try to click, whenever you want to create a shape, basically you just click and you drag, and when you press shift, it makes it a perfect shape. If you don't want to click and drag, you can just, once you select either of the shape you want to create, you can click on the Artboard, and it should give you this interface where you can say 1 inch or 2 inch. So that creates your shape based on this. All the shapes are very basic except for star, which I informed that when you are trying to create a star, you can press up or down to increase the spikes, and you need to press Ctrl while holding your mouse button down to choose how spiky you want the star to be. So that is that about that. Then we have the blob tool, similar to the brush. Whenever you want to paint, this can be used for painting basically. And the blob tool is more like you can think of it as a paint pen that has water in it, so it's much more fluid. If you had a digital tablet, the blob tool is going to be thick when you press it hard, and it's going to be light when you press it lightly. So that's about that. And then we have the shaper tool, which is more like an AI for creating shapes in Illustrator. So it imagines what you're trying to create and suggests a shape based on your gesture. And then we have the pencil tool, similar to the pen tool, and you can use the smooth tool to manipulate whatever shape you come up from the pen. We have the razor tool. Basically it's meant to delete. The scissors slice through parts, and the knife is used to divide or cut your shape as you wish. And then remember yesterday we discussed rotate tool. So basically the rotate tool is meant to rotate, as the case may be. Whenever you click on the rotate tool, the first thing you need to do is to select your anchor point. The anchor point is where your rotation happens from. So if you select from, say, take for example from here, whenever you try to rotate, it rotates it from that point. So keep that in mind. And just like I showed you yesterday, you can use this tool to create some cool designs like I did. If I were to click here and press Alt on my keyboard, it's going to give me an option where I can further manipulate my shape. So I'm going to type in 15 like I did yesterday, and I'm going to copy. If you want to repeat a task in Illustrator, you just press Ctrl D and duplicates your last action. So you keep pressing Ctrl D, and quickly I can have something that looks like a watch. So that is the rotate tool. And for the reflect tool, basically just reflects, just like it says, it reflects your shape in the direction you wish. So I can show you clearly. Imagine if this is the shape, and I want it to look like the roof of the house. So basically I'll just go to the reflect tool, press this part. I'm pressing Alt on my keyboard, so it can give me an option to copy it. So once I hit copy, probably once I hit copy, it's meant to we are back on here again.
I'm not sure why. Okay, probably, yeah. You is the tool selected itself? That's the shape.
Yes, it is.
Check. No.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Oh yeah, I can see the highlights. Maybe you redo it. You reselect it again.
Okay.
Yeah. Then. Yeah.
selected. That's why the anchor point is there.
Uh-huh. So you
That's
can
what I
change your
want.
angle.
Let me do vertical. So I'm going to
Yeah.
do a copy. So something like that. So the first thing to do is to select your anchor point, and then you're going to have the other shape reflected on the other part. So that can be helpful if you're trying to imagine if I want to design, say, human being. I can do something like this. And try to draw a shape here. Let me just restyle this. So I have something like this. So I'm going to select this guy. Well, let's imagine I give him a feet. Let me just give him a small leg around here. No, let me do what the others do here. I'm going to do something like this. So I'm going to combine all these. I'm going to right click and group it. I think this is too much explanation for this, but let's see how it goes. So if I copy this now, I should have the other parts as a shape. So that's basically how I use the reflector. This does not make sense because the leg needs to be apart. You get the gist. So the next tool is this scale tool, which basically is just to scale your shape. You can use this to share your shape, like adjusting the angle. Probably if you have something like this, you can use share to make it look like a rhombus or something like that. So we are going to come back to, okay, we highlighted this already, which is just used to manipulate shapes, something like that. So you can play around with that and see how you can get some cool stuff with it. The freeform is to manipulate shape as you wish, and the puppet is to create points where you can then drag your shape. So you can drag that point, create another point, drag it like that. So that's what that does. The shape builder tool, we're going to come back to that shortly. The perspective tool is used to draw some kind of landscape stuff, and the mesh tool is basically used to make colors. I don't think I showed that yesterday. So let's imagine I have this kind of stuff. I can use the mesh tool. Okay, I think I had issues drawing it yesterday. Let me do this. So I can select, imagine this is an orange, I can select this part and make it this color. Come here, and maybe that part is not yet ripe, I can make it green. Let me come here and make this part a dark green. So the mesh color is just basically your way of creating gradients or colors within a shape. So you can play around with that and see if you can come up with something cool. The gradient, basically, there's no more to it. If you want to have, in some cases, you might want to design something that has a gradient. So I'll just come here and go to my gradient tool. Probably just drag from top to bottom or something like that. So you can see the properties panel shows some kind of type of gradient that you have. So you can always choose what kind of gradients you have, and you can further bring the gradient option out so you can have more fluidity and options to play around with. So that is that about that. Okay, I don't think I touched this part yesterday, the eyedropper tool and the blend tool. So the concept of the eyedropper tool is this. Imagine if I wanted to create a shape. I'm going to delete this and make it a default black. So the eyedropper tool basically is used to get color from anything you wish at all. So let's see. Let's imagine I have this cool cat and I want to get the color of the the color of the eye. So I'll just select my shape, press I for the eyedropper tool. You can see it's highlighted. Then go to this yellow and click. So it takes a color from that. In some cases, when you are designing a logo, you can take inspiration by going to any random picture, say cake. No, let me do cake. So imagine if I want to create a logo for a cake company. I think that would be too much. Let me just copy this. Let me copy this cool cake image and just paste that in here. So imagine if I want to create a logo for a cake company, I can just create some basic shapes like this one. I'll duplicate them, press Ctrl D to do them one more time. So I can select this shape, press I and look for this chocolate kind of color. I get that. I can select this other one, press I on my keyboard or select the eyedropper tool and get this kind of golden color as well. So that is what you can use the eyedropper tool to achieve. And then we have the blend tool. So basically the blend tool is meant to blend between shapes. And I think we brushed up on that yesterday. So I'm going to select both shapes, go to my blend tool, press Alt, so I can get that, and I will select the steps I want. So I should be able to go from here to here, so something like that. So that's how the blend tool works. And then we have the symbol sprayer. I showed us an example of symbol sprayer yesterday by just creating a random shape, and you can drag that to your symbol section, so you can then use that as some kind of texture. So click OK. If I go to my symbol sprayer, I can then spray that shape all around the page. I can do some other things with it and based on the options I have available to me. And then the last option here on this side is the probably you can call it graph tools. So similar to what you have in Excel, you can create bar graph, flowchart, and all this kind of cool stuff. And the last option is to move around your artboard. This can be used to create multiple artboards as much as you want. And this can be used to slice your artboard into different segments. This will help you move the hand tool. The hand tool will let you move your artboard, and the zoom tool will let you zoom in or out. So this is called scrubbing. I'm moving my mouse to the left and this time to the right, so I can use that to zoom in and out. So that's the good stuff we talked about yesterday. And this part is where we are going to talk about swatches, color picker. I think I discussed color picker just now, which I skipped yesterday. So the color picker is what I just showed about bringing in an image, then using the eyedropper to select or add colors to the distance. So just to illustrate that again, I'm going to create new shapes. I'm going to make it all black. I'm going to make it black. So by the way, the concept of swatches, this is your swatch. As you can see here, it says swatches. If you don't have this option, you can go to Windows, look for, sorry about that, go to Windows, look for swatch, and once you click it, it's going to bring it up on your screen. And remember yesterday we discussed that palettes can be moved, so I can move these out and it stands on itself. But if I want to make it arrange, I can just snap to the edge and probably collapse it or minimize it so it becomes an icon, so you can play around with that. So swatches is just basically, you can think of it as your color palette based on what you are seeing here. And you can always load more palettes if the colors you want is not here. Illustrator comes with large library of colors, so you can just come to open swatch library and you have a lot of color options here. So if you are looking for something metallic, once you click metal, it brings a pop-up of what metal could look like. So you can have this kind of silver tint, something that looks like aluminium, and depending on what you're looking for. So swatches are always there for you depending on what color or vibe you're looking for. Just go to open swatch library and then you look for the color you want, the saturated color that will bring a pop-up. You can play around with that. And so the concept of texture, as far as Illustrator is concerned, in some cases you might have to create your texture yourself by using an image, or you can go to, hold on a moment, you can go to looking for styles. Please show me. Okay, graphic styles, exactly. So there are some default styles that come with Illustrator, but it's nothing so cool. So you can have this kind of stuff as your texture. If you go online, you're going to find a lot of graphics texture for Illustrator that can be helpful. And just like symbols, you should be able to create your textures yourself by just clicking and dragging to the graphic style. So let me see. So I have this. So I can drag this here. So let's hold on.
I think you may need to group them, I think.
Okay.
Or match. Yeah.
Okay. But it doesn't seem to be working fine. So let's say I select this. It doesn't seem to be working fine. Alright, so basically, yeah, oh, hold on a moment, let me try this. Main. Nothing is happening.
Or if you maybe use the Pathfinder side to make it a compound shape.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
because
can do that easily by pressing Ctrl 8.
yeah. So
Does
this
it do
this
anything?
should work. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it needs to be a compound part to be a shape. Alright. Thank you for that tip. So that is the texturing part of it. And when it comes to using textures that you want, let's imagine I go online and I say paper texture. Let's bring this guy in. And let's just copy and paste that in. So imagine I want just a circle or a square with paper texture. I can just drag this to my page and just basically make it like a background. And if I don't want it to be on all part of the page, remember you can do something called clipping, which is more like hiding something within the shape. So I can just click this part of the screen, select the top one and the bottom one, right click and say make clipping mask. So that way I have a paper texture at the top and then just white artboard at the base. So that's that about swatches, color picker and symbols. So the next thing we'll be looking at is the pen tool. The pen tool is used just like a pen, but in this case when you are drawing or using pen tool in Illustrator, there's something called anchor points and points. So we're going to quickly run into that. Oh my, just hold on a moment, my mouse battery is dead.
Okay.
Okay. Alright, so I'm back.
Alright.
Alright, so to illustrate the pen tool, I'm going to show you how you can make straight lines and how you can make curved lines, after which we're going to try to design the shape of love, art, as the case may be. Alright, so to go to the pen tool, just use the shortcut P, or look for this icon at this the fifth icon on your left toolbar. So just whenever you have the pencil, you can draw a straight line, just like you can see. And in Illustrator, remember when you press shift, you can constrain what you want to do. So I'm drawing this randomly, but if I press shift, it ensures it's either a straight line or a straight angle. So you can see it's not letting me draw any random shape anymore like I can do here. Once I press shift, it becomes either a straight line or at a certain angle. So you can do something like that. That is as far as straight line is concerned. So imagine if I want to draw a rectangle, I just have to press shift on my keyboard, keep clicking like that, and then I have my rectangle. So for each of these for this shape, as you can see, you can have this kind of points here. So these are the anchor points of your shape. So that will become very helpful the moment we start using, we want to draw a curved line. So I'm going to press P, and to draw a curved line, let me show you something here. If I press the first one, I've created the line. But imagine I get to this point and I want to make it curved. All I have to do is click and drag. So the moment you click and you drag, it shows this kind of line, and this line can be used to direct how curvy or how straight your line is going to be. So you can see as I'm dragging it, it's making it bend towards the other side. If I drag it down, the top part gets to go up. So this is a very essential thing to learn, and it takes time to perfect how to use this this tool to get the shape you want. So just remember that whenever you click and drag, it brings this kind of option to further manipulate your line. So that is how that works, and you can keep running, or bending the shape based on what you'd like to achieve. So let me freestyle to draw a circle. In this case, I'll just click here. I think this looks good. I'll come here, probably go here. So whenever you are using the pen tool to draw curved shape, you should always visualize what your anchor point is going to be, as we're going to see when we try to draw the art shape. So let me look online for art icon. Okay, so let me choose a very fine one like this one. So I'm going to copy this in and paste that in. Oh, that's so big. Okay. Alright, another thing to chip in this case is alignment. So in Illustrator, in some cases you might find yourself required to align things in a certain order. So let's imagine I have this kind of stuff here. So I submitted this design to my client, and my client says, I don't want them to be arranged in this order. I want all of them to be on a straight line. So in your properties panel, you have this option called align. So once you click this, it takes you, it arranges it in the format you want. So you can play around with alignment to see or how to understand how it works. This aligns to the center, this aligns to the right side. The reason why I'm saying that is because I was going to just align this shape to the center of my page by going to the alignment option, Artboard, and then select middle. So it's aligned to the center as it is. So to draw my to draw my art, I'll just go to my pen tool, and I can start from any point I wish to start from. But in this case, I will start from this middle part because it seems to be the most sensitive part of it. So I'll click here. And remember, when you're drawing with the pen tool, you should visualize the points of where you are going to curve. And I wish I could make this interactive, but based on how you are seeing this, like how many points do you think we are going to have? Hello?
I think.
Yes, 3 points, I guess.
I think it's going to be too small. Okay. All right. Good guess.
I'm
That
saying
would be too
5.
small. So I think we should be having about 5 or 6. 5 should do.
5
So
would
the
do.
first point is I'm starting here. This is my first point. I'm going to this top. Remember, I need to curve. So I'm going to curve this to almost align to the shape of the art. That is my second point. So I'm going to bring it down here and maybe arrange it like this. And this would be my third point. Alright, let me zoom in so I can get a better view. My second point. My third point. Okay, let me try this. Let me try to arc it. Let's see. So that does not seem to be working fine. You can see I'm trying to make it work here, but it's saying never. It's not possible. Except I make it very thin.
I think it may work, but maybe let's since we are trying to do a practical, then we can try and go back so that we see how we can use the direct tool to manipulate some of those. Like you can drag it that way, then go back to maybe those other anchor points to see how we can maybe try and adjust it to fit.
Yeah, even with the anchor points,
it may not. Right? Let's see.
Okay. Is okay.
So it's just to see like how.
But we can't get it. We can't get it directly.
Directly, yes.
Okay, I get that point. So let me go back almost. Let's start from the beginning. The first point there, the second point around here, and so we are trying to save points in this case. So I'm going to draw the third point just at the base. So as of now, we should not worry about how inaccurate it looks. So whenever you have something like this, I want to go back to the top. You can see it's telling me that never, it's not possible. This line is too curvy, like it's already going in this part and it should go in that part. I can't bring it up here except I do something. And what I need to do is to convert the edge to not be a corner. So you can see this icon here. Once I click here, it tells this point that okay, this is now a straight line. I can now draw another straight line. If I don't do that, it's not going to let me do like go back to the top without not being. To make it straight, I need to break the connection of this line. So is it that I press this icon here, the one that says, you can see it has some kind of add lines instead of this one that looks like a curve. So if I press this, it terminates that. Or I can press Alt at this end. At the end of it, I can press Alt. So the moment I press Alt on my keyboard, I can then drag to the top again, similar to what I did there. And then it's giving me another problem here. It wants to go to the top, which I do not want. So I'm going to press Alt one more time, then come back here to finish that. Then at the end of using your pen tool, you are going to see something like this, like a small circle that tells you that okay, this is the end point. And once I click that completes my shape. So now in this case, I have something that is so inaccurate. This is not what I want to get in this case. So this is where the direct selection comes in. Remember, the direct selection selects what part of your shape or object you'd like to manipulate. So the first thing I would like to manipulate is this middle area, which does not seem to be touching the starting point. So I would use my I'm just going to select a part of my shape. You can see like I'm dragging invisible rectangle around here to select this part. So the moment the moment I select this part, I can now drag this part of my. Is it moving my background or what? Okay, alright. So let me do something. Remember, for each shape you have in your scene, you have them in the layers panel. So I'm going to expand my layer, and it seems to be selecting my object in the background, which is what is causing me the trouble. So I'm going to hover around here to lock this image, so the image does not move. So it's invisible, but when you go to the layers panel, this middle part, whenever you click it, you can lock an image, and this eye icon can be used to make a layer visible or invisible. Alright, so after locking the icon, I'm just going to select again, and I can now move this part as I wish. So it still seems irregular. The next thing I'm going to do is to use the same direct selection tool. Instead of selecting points this time around, I would select edges, and you can see as I hover on the edge, there is a new icon that is telling me that okay, I can do something here. So if I click here now, I can play around with these edges as I want to get some kind of accurate result. I need to come here as well and make this part look okay. Alright, so you can make this as perfect as you want. The main concept is that you understand how these tools work. So for this part, using the direct selection tool, I'm going to select this edge as well and try to play around with it. The basic concept I want to get is that the red part is not showing, and this part that is showing as well, I'll just drag till I get the accurate. So this is not the best art, it looks heartbroken, but then you get the gist. So the pen tool is a very hard tool to create a art shape. Personally, I have a hack for creating art, and it is quite easy. I learned it from one of the tutorials I watched. So if I want to create art shape, I'm going to have something like this. I'll just create this shape, and I'm going to make it like this. I'm going to rotate to this side, go to the reflect tool, select the middle part, pressing Alt. I'm going to make it 45 degrees as well. I'm going to copy. No, that does not seem to work. But let me do this. Let me select and reflect. 45 degrees. Let me just copy that. Right. So I'll just select both of them, and using the shape builder tool, which we're going to get to, I would select this part, delete it away, select this part, delete it away, and now using the direct selection tool or pressing Ctrl, I can smoothen these edges. Direct selection tool, select these edges, select these edges, and there you go. So this is going to save me a lot of time trying to run around getting the pencil. Wow. So this is a good hack for creating art.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So sorry,
initially I was
on the straight line spotlight.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe you show them, but though you've deleted, how to use like those tools, okay, like the smooth, you know, like if you could copy and paste this, just copy this one. No, maybe go back to the previous
Alright,
trace.
You mean go back?
Yeah, the traces. No, the traces we did.
Okay.
Those I think you deleted that one already.
Yes, I did. I can go back to it. I think I have my
so yeah. If no, go back a step forward, another step. Okay, so can you turn off the image layer, the red heart shape?
Okay.
Okay, sorry, just go back to go to where the smooth tool, where the pencil tool is. No, the one down, not the pen, the yes.
Okay.
Yes, so
this one, yeah.
Yes. So it's just so that we see how we can like this interactive the tools are between themselves. I think if you highlight, then try and create a curve around the heart shape. If you try and give it a do it creates.
Okay, like combining.
Yes. No, you just drag it around to the maybe where the other point is.
Yeah, but it's just
the
going to smooth them in,
y-
as you can see, and it's adding more points.
more points. So I'm just there are use cases where you may actually trace a shape, but it may be a complex shape that
It doesn't look.
than this.
It's
Yeah,
not giving
so
you what you want.
yeah, so you can use some of these ones to. I'm just trying to show you use case so that we can relate to why we're going through all the hex of learning all the tools. It's just to show how in practical
Alright.
use now.
So you can connect the dots when it is required.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that insight. So, in that case, we've covered the straight lines, curved lines, and we've been able to create the shape of our hearts by tracing using the pen tool. How am I going? How are we doing?
It's been well so far.
Thank you for that feedback. Anything you're not clear about?
No.
Hey Samuel, welcome. Alright. So the next we'll be looking at to create is the cloud, and we're also going to create a moon. So that part is going to let us know how we can use the shape builder tool. Remember, I did some abracadabra for someone that might not know about removing the shape I created earlier. So we're going to dive in by going to learn how to create a cloud and moon in this case. So to illustrate that, I'll just look for a cloud icon. Okay, so let's use this cool guy. Is there a question for me? Alright, thank you, Samuel. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this artboard and paste in the cloud. So when it comes to design thinking, yeah, whenever you see something, which is also similar to in 3D, this might look like a complex shape, but if you look at it closely, it's made up of some basic shapes. So in this case now, let's talk. What are you seeing in this shape as it is right now? Like, what are the shapes you are seeing on it?
Okay, a couple of circles and a couple of rectangles. Sorry, rectangles.
Okay, alright. So you are right. So in this case, I believe we have 4 circles and 1 rectangle. So that is exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to go to my to my ellipse tool, and probably zoom in so I can get some good pictures. And even if you look at this closely, it doesn't seem to be created in a good shape. So I'm going to drag one around here. It is not a perfect circle. And then probably drag another one here. So I'm clicking on the selection tool, and you can see these edges. I can press here to scale them. So I can keep doing this. I need to press shift so I can get a very good shape, and I'm not following it as it is exactly, but the idea is that we get the point of how to go about it. So I'm going to expand these to this size so we can get a better contrast. Let me just make it something yellowish or red. Okay, so I'm going to create another one. I'm just pressing Alt on my keyboard to duplicate the previous shape. So when you press Alt, you can see there is a black and white icon against each other. So that can be used to create a new like a child of the previous object. So you are duplicating it. So for this, I'm going to press Shift and scale it down this way. Press Shift and scale it down this way. Now imagine if I don't want to press Shift and be scaling up and down, I can press Alt on my keyboard. So it's going to scale it from the center. Where you can see I'm getting some kind of wobble, not accurate shape. If I press Shift, it's going to lock it to be a round shape. So in this case, my hand is currently on the Alt and Shift. Remember, if you press Alt, you're going to be able to scale from the center. but the moment you press shift, you are constraining it to be just one shape. So I'm going to scale that up really much. Okay, hold on a moment. And align it to this side, so it goes like that. Probably scale it a little bit more and drag it down, so you have something like that. So I'm going to duplicate this one more time, but make it smaller. So I'm pressing shift on my keyboard, making it small, and I'm dragging it to these edges. Now to complete the bottom part, and so that I don't get any issues, I'm going to align these two so that both of them have the same base. So I'm going to go to my properties panel. I remember I highlighted about the align tool, which is found here. In some other cases, you can bring it out to be a palette on its own. So I can bring it here and drag it to this part of my screen, if that is what I want. So I want them to be at the base, and this is the button for that. You can see there's a vertical align button. So the moment I click that, it drags. You can see this moved just a few inches. Let me zoom in so you can see. You are going to see that it moves down just a bit, so that it's the same alignment with this. So it seems to have distorted the shape. So I'm going to move both of them up, this guy and this guy. So move it up a bit. Probably I might have to scale this guy a little bit more. Alright, when we use the shape builder tool, we are going to trim out those parts, so probably I can ignore this bottom part for now. So to complete the cloud, I'm going to create a rectangle. So I can see this is somewhat around where the rectangle should be. I can just start by clicking any part of my circle. I pressed Alt by mistake, and that's why that broke. So I'm going to select the anchor point of the shape and create my rectangle this much. So in this case now, I have a bunch of circle and I have a rectangle. Now this is the cool part, and the first thing in my course outline is that we use the shape builder tool. So the concept of the shape builder tool is that you can combine shapes, you can remove shapes as you wish. And to get the shape builder tool, you can see the icon at this part of your screen, or you can press Shift M on your keyboard. So I'm going to click on the shape builder tool, and when you click the shape builder tool, you must select the object you want to act on first. As of now, before selecting the shape builder tool, you can see I have this rectangle selected. So the only thing I can manipulate is just the rectangle, and I need to do more than that. So I need to go to the top. I remember I don't want to select this, so I'm going to go to my layers panel and lock the shape as well by clicking this invisible space. So that is going to lock it, and now I can't move it anymore. So I'm going to go back to my properties panel. From the top, I'm going to draw an imaginary rectangle, so I can select all the shapes. So you can now see that it has outlined the shapes that I've selected, and you can see the lines that makes up the shape. So going back to the shape builder tool, I can then come back to my shape, and it's giving me an option. You can see it's like a dotted line around it. So this is telling you that what you want to do. If I click here, it creates just a shape, like it's blending on the current picture I have in my color palette. So that is why it's making it that color. If I combine this to this, I'm combining this part of the image of the object. If I combine this one to this, I'm merging both together. If I do the same thing for here, I'm combining that as well. If I do this, I'm combining that. Now what if I want to remove this part? All I have to do is press Alt on my keyboard, and once I click here, it deletes it. So you can see I do not have the red shape anymore because I pressed Alt. So it deletes it. If I press Alt on this one as well, it deletes it. So the concept of the shape builder tool is it imagines you have something in mind that you want to create. Now you are trying to combine or remove some part of of a shape to get your desired result. So I do not want to remove this, I want to add it. So I'll just drag my an invisible line to combine that. So to make it all round, I'll just select all my shapes, and that creates the cloud. Now I have an issue here. You can see I have this bottom part that does not make sense. Something is wrong here. So I need to go back and retrace my step. And one thing I need to do is to probably extend this this rectangle so it offsets on the last shape I have, so I can then cut this bottom part off. If I do not do that, I'm going to have issues. Let's imagine I have this like this. Let's imagine I have that like that. If I try to remove this bottom part, I'm removing the complete image because there is no offset. So it is good to note that whenever you are using the shape builder tool, you should always have an offset between the images you are trying to get rid of. In worst case, it's even deleted all part of my previously added section just because I tried to remove it. So now see what happens when I extend this shape beyond the original object. So I'm going to select all again by drawing an imaginary rectangle. Go back to my shape builder tool, and now I can come to this bottom part, and you can see I can delete it without any issues. And for the extended part as well, I don't need it, I can just hover on it. While doing that, I'm pressing Alt. Remember, to add, you don't need to press anything. To remove, you should press Alt on your keyboard. So when you press Alt, you can remove that. And to complete my shape, I'll just drag my lines around this and include this part as well. I'm going to drag it here. Oh, so it seems I have an issue there, which I did not see before now. So I can just select it and delete it as well. Okay. So now I can drag my cloud here. I remember I want this blue color, so I can just press I on my keyboard or select the eyedropper tool and click on the picture I have here. So I'm getting the same color, and we have almost similar shape as the cloud. So I'm going to keep this for now because we're going to come back to it when we want to do the export part of the class. So let me delete this shape. I think I'm done with both of them for now. So the delete icon is just at the base. Once you delete that, you no longer have it as part of your artboard. So so we've checked the cloud, and the next thing we'll be looking at is the moon. Okay. So let's go to the browser, and I'm going to look for moon icon. I did not want to create any shape before we come to the class, so we can go along and see the workflow or thought process behind it. So we have this here, and let's use probably, okay, I think we're going to do something cool with this. Let's try to create something like this. Yeah, this looks cool. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to drag this here outside here for now, and I'm going to scale this down. I'm pressing Alt 0 on my keyboard so I can view the artboard correctly. If you are lost, you can just come to view, and you can see many options on how you can view your artboard. So we want to create this moon. I remember we have a cloud here already, so this can work for something like that. So to create the moon, basically we know the moon is just a round circle. So I'm going to start around here and try to create my shape. Now imagine, remember that if you press Alt, you'll be creating the shape from the middle, which is what I want. And I want to press Shift so I can get something that is round corner. Now another thing that we are going to add to the list of commands that I can use is by pressing the space bar. So as of now, my hand is on Shift as well as Alt. Alt makes it build from the middle, Shift constrains it to be a perfect shape. The moment I press space, I can drag the shape to where I want it to be. So the reason why I need to drag in this case is because the middle part where I started from is not properly aligned to the moon shape, which is what I'm trying to recreate. So the moment I press space, I can say, alright, I think it looks good around here. I can remove my hand from spacebar, and I can further. I'm on space again because it's when I press space, that is when I can move it. So I'm on space, and that is why I can now align it. I moved my hand away from space, and I can scale it a little bit further. So that's that about that. So remember, to get the shape, I pressed shift to constrain to be a perfect shape. I pressed alt to create it from the center point, which is here, and I press spacebar to align it to be the perfect angle or perfect position that I want. So let me do something, because in this case I'm not seeing the background image, which is what I wanted, which is what I'm planning to trace. I need to remove the color fill of this shape, and I'm introducing something new. So if you look at this part of your toolbar, you can see there is a fill, which is this color, and at the back, if you hover on it, you can see there's a stroke. So what I want to do is I want to remove this blue color, and instead add a stroke. So to remove it, I just need to press this slash icon here. The moment I press it, it shows just a line. I remember this has a slash, which means there is no color. The stroke as well has a slash, which means there is no stroke. I can always toggle between these options by just clicking on it. So if I press here now and I go to this color, I'll be giving it a yellowish kind of stroke, and you can see the stroke is now filled. So this has given me an option to see the image behind my shape without the fill. So that is good for now. So I can get a proper view. I can increase my stroke to say 5. That looks good. So I need a different shape to cover, to be some kind of half moon. So I'm going to press Alt on my keyboard and move this towards this side. So it seems to be too big. I'm going to press Shift and scale it down, and probably move it one more time to get something like that. I want to have a perfect shape, so I'm not going to extend it to fill in this part. I'm going to leave it just like that. So now that I've been able to trace this part of my image, I'm going to select both the big one and the small one. I'm going to remove the stroke because I'm done with it. I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to remove that by pressing this icon or pressing slash on your keyboard. So I'm going to come back to the front one, which is to fill. And let's do one thing. Let's go to Swatches, and let's choose this color, for example. Or we can use the eyedropper tool and select a color from the artboard the picture we currently imported in. So we are getting that. So now in the course outline, we have 2 ways of getting this. You can see I have Shape Builder tool, I have the Pathfinder tool. So remember the Pathfinder tool, once you go to the Pathfinder tool, when you add, if you don't press Alt, you are adding. The moment you press Alt, you are removing. And in this case, all I want to do is remove. So I'm going to press Alt and just slide over the part I want to remove. And there you have it. I have my moon. So you can see that it looks just like what we have beneath it. So that is about that. I've created my moon, and remember we want to remake this kind of design. So what I'm going to do is the same. So I'm just going to create a random shape. It doesn't seem to align. I'm pressing space to align it. I'm going to scale it further, and I think that looks somewhat perfect. Probably press space and drag it there a bit, and I'm releasing it. For now I don't need it to have a fill, so I'm going to press comma or come here to remove it, and then add a stroke instead. So we have that there. So it doesn't disturb the other things I want to design. I'm probably going to hide it in the layers panel. So whenever I go to the layers panel, the currently selected item will be highlighted blue, as you can see here. So I'm going to hide that. I will come back to it when I want to create the outer shape.
Yeah.
So so that this doesn't further disturb me again, I'm going to lock this image by clicking the invisible line around here. So that is locked. I can no longer move the image. Alright, so because we already have this cloud, I'm not going to create. Oh, and as you can see, one thing about layer is that what is on top will always be on top, and what is beneath it will be invisible. So you can see I'm trying to move the cloud, but it's not letting me. And the reason is that if you see in the hierarchy here, the part is beneath the image. So I need the image to be at the base before I can see my cloud. And basically, it's as easy as just clicking and dragging up and down. So that is how to go about that. So if you are finding it hard to see your image, you need to check the hierarchy. So the concept of hierarchy is what comes to the top shows and what is at the base does not show. So we're going to make it more colorful. We're going to use the same color. So I'm just going to do something like this. There's not the same kind of cloud, but we get the same concept. So I'm just going to place that right there. I'm going to duplicate it by pressing Alt and take this to this side as well. Probably make this smaller. Alright, so I need these small circles here, and I would have loved to use the symbol tool, but we need a lot of tweaking, not tweaking please, a lot of tweaking because of the space in between. So I'm just going to go the hard way and start creating my shape. I'm not going to be very perfect. I'll just press Alt on my keyboard, drop that there. I want them to be this color, or the color of this there. So I'm going to keep going, just press Alt create, press Alt create. So that way I'm just creating from the center. I'm eyeballing where it's going to be. So I'm doing that, Remember, I'm not trying to be accurate. I'm not trying to just recreate what this person did. So I'm doing something like that. Something like that. Just freestyling it. So we have the cycle. So I think I've been able to create that part. Now what happened to my cloud here? Well, probably I did not press Alt while I was creating, so it went missing. So I'm going to press Alt and duplicate it and bring it back here. Probably scale it, and there we have it. Alright. So in this case, I think this is the best part to jump the gun. I'm going to discuss grouping shapes, or grouping generally. So in this case now, you can see I have a lot of ellipses on my scene, and it's a little bit messy right now. So what I want to do is group all these shapes so that it's just going to be just one group, and I can manipulate them like that. So the same way you can select one after the other here, you can also do the same thing in the layers panel. So I'm just pressing Control. Hold on a moment, please. Okay, so you can select the last one. I can select the first one and the last one while pressing Shift, and that selects all the shape. And to group, just right click and do group, or the shortcut is Ctrl G. So now you can see all my ellipses is in this group, which I can move anywhere I want it to be. So these are my shapes. So that basically covers this grouping shape. So that is how you group. No more, no less. There's no complex into it than just right click and group. So now I can see it is grouped, and I can now go to ungroup if I do not want it to be grouped anymore. So I can hide this group for now. Is there anything else I'm here to create in my scene? I don't think so. Alright, so let me hide the background image and let's see what we have. Oh, now I can see that I do not have a background. I just have an ellipse without a background. So let me do one thing. I'm going to select my ellipse, go to the eyedropper tool, which is right here, or press I on my keyboard, then select this color. So now I have my my shape field. Now remember the hierarchy. I have run into issues because my ellipse is covering everything that is under it. So to get the desired results, my ellipse needs to be at the base of other shapes for it to come up. So within few minutes we've been able to achieve this somewhat complex looking scene, and what we use is basically the shape builder. So we're going to try to recreate some part of it, not all part of it. We're going to try to recreate the shape, I mean the cloud, and as well as the moon using Pathfinder, which is similar to the shape builder too. So I'm going to create a new artboard by going to this place, and then the same way you can duplicate shapes, you can duplicate artboards in Illustrator as well. So I'm going to press Alt on my keyboard and drag the artboard to this side. So the moment I drop it, it creates a new artboard with same features, same content of the previous artboard. So now I want to work on this artboard. I'm going to select it and press Ctrl 0 so I can zoom in clearly. We want to recreate the cloud and the moon using Pathfinder. So I'm going to delete both and start again. Now, in a typical case, because I know I'm going to do something like this, I would have probably keep a backup of the previous shape, so I don't have to create it all over again. Because it's not about working hard; it's about working smart. So it's always good that you preempt what you want to do at the back of your mind, so that whenever you are working, you can work in a very smart manner. So if I know I'm going to be using probably using a shape over and over again, the best thing to do is to just probably group it and hide it in your layers panel. So remember, I did not do any backup, so now I have to start all over again and recreate my shape, which is not a smart way to work. So as an artist, have that at the back of your mind to always work smart instead of working hard. So I'm not going to go step by step on how I'm going to create a shape. I'll just draw some random ellipses. So this time around I'm not measuring anything, I'm just freestyling it. And I'm going to start from here. I want to make sure it's eating. Okay, I think I'm using the rounded corner, that's where I'm going to get detail. So I'm going to make sure I touch the base of this so it looks accurate to some extent. Just drag that out. So I'm going to select all the shape. So now, remember the other time we used the shape builder tool, but this time around we'll be using the Pathfinder. So the concept of the Pathfinder is more like something in statistics, or we can call it bool. So the concept of it is that you can choose to unite a shape. If I press unite, it brings all the shape together to be one. That is not what I want to do. If I press, sorry about that, hold on a moment. Okay, I lost the selection. Let me select it again. Alright. So if I press minus front, it's going to minus the most front objects from the middle objects. And in this case, I expect it to throw an error because I have a lot of objects selected. Or worst case scenario, it's going to leave me with a very little part of the scene. So let's press minus and see what happens. So after minusing everything that is in front, this is the last object that is remaining in my scene. That is not what I want either. So it's just pretty basic. Whatever you want to do, if you just hover on it and it's going to tell you. So unite merges all the objects. minus front removes the foremost object from the one that is at the back. Click to intersect, it's going to remove both parts of the shape except where they touch each other. So let's see what that does for this shape. It says the filter produced no result. Please select 2 overlapping parts. So because I have more than 2 selected, it is confused, it doesn't know which one to remove from which. So that will not work. That can only work when you have 2 parts selected. And the last one on the list is click to exclude. I believe that should throw an error as well. Okay, so it's not throwing an error. So that is the opposite of intersect. Wherever there's an intersection, it gets automatically deleted. But in this case, all these tools is not going to meet my requirements because I want to keep some part of the shape and delete some part of the shape. So what I'm going to do is this. I might have to break down my scene into. I might have to break down my shape into using different Pathfinder tool. So remember what I said about working smart. Just in case I mess up this cloud, I'm going to do a backup of it by clicking Alt and dragging outside my Artboard. So one thing about Artboard is that whatever is outside the Artboard, whenever you are exporting, it does not get carried. It does not get exported as well. So the Artboard, outside the Artboard, is a good way to hide stuff and keep your backup, as the case may be. All right. So remember, I want to make this cloud. Let me probably scale this up a bit so it's overlapping around here. I'll probably move it in a bit. Okay. All right. So I want to make my cloud just one object. I'm going to select all of it and go to the Pathfinder tool and use Unite. So now I have just one shape, like a bubble shape, and I have my rectangle. Now let's think, what do you think should be the next action I'm going to do? So imagine now I have my shape, now I have this. What is the command I'm going to use? So I have Unite, I have click minus front, I have intersect, and I have exclude. So any suggestion? Okay. Alright, so let's try and see what
you do. Or you could drag back that one and then do image Unite.
Alright, so let's try this. Let's try intersect. Intersect removes everything except what is in the shape. So let's try exclude and let's see what we have. Exclude is removing this part of the shape as well. So that is not working. And let's try to use click minus. That is removing the rectangle. So what can we do in this case? The Pathfinder has more options, and that can be found by expanding on these 3 dots. So the moment you click that, you have more options available to you. But in this case, based on my experience, the one that is going to work for us is this first guy, which is to divide. So the concept of divide is that it breaks all your shapes into chunks without bothering about removing any part of it. So the moment I click divide, I'm not going to discuss all these parts. It's kind of similar to these options you have here. So I would implore you to play around with it at your own leisure time so you understand what it works. So it's very straightforward: trim, merge, crop, outline, and minus back. But the one that I'm interested in as of now is the divide. So the moment I click divide, so what I can now do is double click on it, and I can now see that I can move this part separately. So whenever you use the Pathfinder tool, it ends up grouping your objects, which is what I currently have here. So what I want to do is remove some part of it. I'm going to double click, remove this part that I don't need, come to here, come to this base, remove this part, and I think there should be a little dot around there as well. I'm going to remove that part as well. So instead of using the Pathfinder, instead of using the Shape Builder tool, I have used the Pathfinder tool to get similar results with what we have. And I can see this that is trying to run away from its neighbor. So I'm going to select both of them and use the Pathfinder click to unite to make it just one shape. Okay, that does not seem to work. I still have another part here, so I'm going to press shift and select that as well, and then use the unite option. I still have another overlapping part. I'm going to select that as well and then unite it. So now I have the same result as the previous shape builder too. Okay, so we've been able to create a cloud. Let's hide this for now, and now let's work on creating the moon. So same way I did the other time, start from the center, press Alt, create the shape, press I for the eyedropper too, and then go to okay. So let's press I for the eyedropper too and get the same color. Okay, it's not its correct. Same color we had before now. Alright, so like we did the other time, we are going to create a smaller small ellipse. I'm pressing Alt, and I'm going to scale this a little bit small so I can have something like that. I remember this time around I'm not using any reference object, so it's left to me how I want it to be. So probably I make it very big. And we are not using the shape builder tool, we are using the Pathfinder. So I'm going to select both objects. I'm pressing shift to select both of them. So in the Pathfinder tool, what do you think I'm going to use in this case?
Divide.
Okay, the divide option might not work well. It's going to be it's going to work, right? But it's going to be the add route, because I'm going to break my shape into different parts, and then I have to start deleting afterwards. The best way to go about this is to use minus front. Straightforward. If I were to use the divide tool, I would have to go back into the scene, delete this part, delete this part. So that's 3 steps. That's in fact 4 steps. So why go through that when I can just use the minus front and get rid of it? So here we have this. I'm going to make this small and bring another one at the back, and now we have somewhat similar shape. We created this using the shape builder. I created this using the Pathfinder. Okay, so we've been able to discuss color textures. We used the pen tool to create the art shape. We created the cloud and moon using shape builder, and we also used Pathfinder to create the cloud and the moon. And the next thing we'll be looking at is type. So as far as design is concerned, type is a very important thing to learn. In fact, some people go to school to learn just typography. So typography involves a lot of things, but we cannot cover that within the scope of this course because we do not have time. Typography is a degree on itself. But I'll try as much as I can to hint us about some things that we need to note when we are working with types. So to work on a type, I'm going to create a new artboard. And to do that, I'm not going to use the same method of copying and paste because I don't need this artwork. So what I'm going to do, what I always do so that I can have my artboard easily accessible, is I'm going to go to my windows, the window menu, and I'm going to go to Artboard. So the moment I get the Artboard palette, I can then drag that to any part of my scene. But in most cases, I like it to be around here. So it's going to be a menu around properties. So I can always toggle between properties, layers, and Artboard. Alright, so you can see this is my first Artboard here. And I can double click around here to toggle between the Artboards. So I'm going to rename these. I can rename these by double clicking, and I call this shape builder, and I'm going to call the second one Pathfinder. So if I could double click around there, I can always toggle between the scenes. And I want to create the third one for typography, remember. So I'm going to press plus, the plus icon at this base. I'll call new artboard. Once I click that, it creates an artboard that is a similar shape with the previous one. Imagine if I have an artboard like this. The moment I press plus, it's going to create the same size as the previous one. So that is a thing to keep in mind when you're creating a new artboard. So let me call this typography, or let me just call it text, sorry. Okay, so whenever you want to create text in Illustrator, it's very basic and straightforward. You can see this icon, just press T, come to your artboard. The moment you click it, it's going to give you some pre-formatted text, which is lorem ipsum. So I can then call this Illustrator class. Okay, so that is my basic text. When I hit enter after typing what I want to type, you can see there are these anchor points around your shape. You can always drag, and this is bad. Remember, whenever something is bad like this, you don't want this to be happening. If you do this kind of thing for someone's design, they can take you to jail. So to avoid something like that from happening, just press shift whenever you are scaling. So it's going to scale proportionally. So this looks good. So I'm going to scale this very large. I'm going to call it Illustrator class. So I'm going to scale it to be super big. So whenever you have a text in your scene, you are going to be made available these options in your properties panel. So depending on the fonts you have, you can always change the fonts you have on the fonts on your computer gets displayed here. And I always do something so it's easier for me. You can see I have just little space for my fonts. It's showing me about, say, 8. I want more than that. So that is why I always drag my, let me remove this so you can see it. That is why I always drag my character type to a different part of my screen. So let's go to Windows, type, and once you click on character, it brings out the palette. So I'm going to drag this to the top, and the reason why I'm doing that is whenever I want to search for fonts, I have more space to work with. So this gives me about 15 compared to the 7 or 8 that I have. So in this case, I can scroll through. I have a lot of fonts. I think I have more than 3,000 fonts, even though I don't need all of them. But that's the dilemma for a graphic designer. So I can choose any font that I want in this case. Let's do something like that. What's happening? Okay, I'm not selecting the text. That is why it's not working. So I'm going to go back there, probably use elephant, and press shift and scale. So one thing to note whenever you are using type, the option might not be available by default. You might need to press this icon to get more details. Okay, is it loading or what? Okay. Alright, so you have some more options here that you can use to manipulate your text. Whenever you have multiple text, let's say let me use a crash course. Alright, I want to make this small, so I'm going to double click on it to select all part of the paragraph, and I'm going to reduce it by coming here. So this part is going to increase or decrease your font size, as you can see. And I want to use a different font for this part, so I'm going to go back to my fonts at the top, and I'm going to use a simpler font like probably Sergio UI. Okay, so I've selected that, and you can see at the base of the font, this is the name of my font. uh, this is, you can see regular here. So this is like the font style. A font will always have its own unique style. This is light, this is bold display. So depending on what you would like to achieve, you can always choose your font style in this case. Another thing to note is there are some options that you can do on your character that is not available on the properties panel, that you can only get in the what's it called, in the menu, in the palette itself. So what I want to do in this case, I want this font to be all caps. Remember, I did not type it in all caps, but I want it to be all caps. So I'm going to double click around here. I'll go to my character palette, and there's these three lines here, the hamburger menu. I can click there, and then I have some options available to me which are not here. So in this case, I'm going to select all caps, and that is going to make my text to be in capital letter. I don't want it to be outside the page, or because it's outside the page, I'll just drop this to the second line. So now I have something like this. Just like you have in Microsoft Word, you have paragraph styles, you have align center, you have align right, you even have justify, just like you have in Microsoft Word. So depending on what you're looking for, in this case I'm just going to use align left, which is what I want to use in this case. Now one thing to note is this, this a crash course is a sub menu in this case. So I can do something like this. I can increase the space between my objects, my text. I can increase shape between my text, as you can see here. The more the space, the better. Depending on what you want to look, depending on what you want to achieve, the more the space, the more readable the font is. Imagine if I have something like this, and it's a lot of text. You are going to find it tiring to read. So whenever you can, if you have space, it's always good to space out your text. The other one you have here is the proximity of your text, which is called kenning. Okay, so it's telling me not to use that. Okay, so this is by default just saying optical or metric. I don't think I use that. So the best one to use around here is this option right here, which is kemming or tracking. So tracking increases the space between each font, and this can be useful depending on what you're looking for. So I'm going to leave this to be around 100, so I have some space around my subheading. So that looks good. Now I have the main header, and I have a subheading. Now I want to have some text that describes the course. So I go to my type tool, and if you want to have a text area where you have a lot of text going into it, all you need to do is just draw an imaginary text area where your text is going to be, and Illustrator automatically fills it with some gibberish. So in this case I have lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum is like the standard for filling in details. So I'm going to collapse this. I'm going to make it like a font size of 12, so I have a lot of text to work with. I remember I've increased the space between. Oh, okay, so this is bad. It's limited. Hold on a moment. It limited the text in the space because the size was too large. So let me delete that. I'm going to go back to my character. Probably make it what I want it to be before now. Make it regular. Then go back to my text and redraw the area text, and then it fills it in. In this case, the space is too much, so I have to further remove the space in between. A rule of thumb is that just make it like depending on how big the size of the font is, you should have almost half of the shape, half of the text to be the space in between. So this is what I have in this case. The same way you can color your objects, you can also color your shape. So imagine if I want this text to be the color of this shape here, I can go to my eyedropper tool and click there. So when I go back to my selection tool, I have the same color as what I selected. So for this part, I'm going to go to my eyedropper tool, select Illustrator class, go to eyedropper tool and make it this color as well. When I come back here, I have this kind of thing. So from what I can see here, I can't see the Illustrator class clearly. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle. And now this is covering my complete shape. I do not want that to happen. I can go to my layers panel and drag that to be at the base. The reason why I'm not seeing the Illustrator class is because it is the same color as the background. So I'm going to select the background, go to my swatch panel, and probably use a tint of gray. That is bad. This font is not showing correctly. So I'm going to select this and probably make it white. For this, I'm going to select it as well and make it probably purple. That's a bad color to use in this case, but I'm just using it for sake of the class. So that is the basic of text. Whatever you want to do, you would always have these menus available to you: increasing the size, increasing the space in between, the font size, the optical or metric view, the alignment. And also another thing to point out in this case is if you click on the text tool, you have some other options available to you. So you have the area type tool, which is what I used here, and you have the type on path. So imagine if I want to write something around this shape, I can use the type on path. I'll just select that and come around here, and now I have something like this. This is too much. I just want to type in moon. So for some reason it has removed my previous shape, which is bad. So I don't want that to happen. I'm going to go back, probably copy and paste and drag that around here, go back to my layers, take it to the bottom, then I can go back to my shape here, my type on path, then type in moon, or let me just leave it as it is. So that can be useful if you want to create a logo that has a text around it. And we also have an option for vertical type 2, and that can be used to write text in this kind of manner. So that is the same technique I used to do this kind of text. So that is what that does. We also have another option, which is vertical area type. So something like okay, so that requires you to create inside a shape, something this. So you must have a shape before you can use that. We also have vertical type on path. So basically anywhere you see type on path, it basically tell you that you can type around a shape. And the last option is the touch type 2. So the touch type 2 is used in a scenario where you want to adjust just some basic part, some part of a text. So I'm going to call this text. I'm going to the touch type 2. I can individually manipulate just this T. So I can do something like this with this text alone. So that is what the type 2 does. Oh, we already eat our time. That's not good. So that is what that does. Within the next 2 minutes, I'm going to cover how you can export out your design, which is the last part of the class. So we should be done in less 10 minutes, please. Let's just bear with us. So what I'm going to do, probably delete this. What I'm going to do is export out these artboards. In this case, I have 3 artboards, and to export it out, there are different methods to that. So to export out, just go to File. You have some export options here. You can save as in some case. If you want this to be in PDF, which you can share with a printer, you can always come here and say course. I can have save as type. You have different options here, which includes PDF, EPS, Illustrator template, SVG, or SVG compressed. So if you want it to be a PDF, you can just select PDF. I can hit save. It's going to bring some menu asking you for how you want to save your design. Just hold on a moment, it's thinking. So you have something like this. There is no much to it. You can look through the options. There is no much to it basically. And you have some presets here depending on what you'd like to achieve. If you are sending to a printer, you can use this option called high quality print. If you just want to preview, you can use small file size. So in this case, I'll just leave it as Illustrator default and just hit save. And the most important part is this attribute, preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. So what this means is that you can send this file to someone in anywhere in the world, and so far the person has Illustrator. When the person opens it, the person can make adjustments as if it's an AI file. When you save in Illustrator, it is called .ai file, which is what you can set it up. So I'm going to set this as PDF, and I can now go to, okay, it's going to open it by default after you hit save. So I think my Adobe Acrobat is, so we have this here. The 3 pages is now exported out as a PDF, which I can share with anyone, and I can also share with a printer to print out. So that is for exporting out. Otherwise, I can also save my file as an AI file and share with my printer. I can save as EPS. Now another part of saving out your design, based on what I have here, is saving for the web. So what we did with the PDF is saving for printer, or for print as the case may be. So to export for the web, you need to export your image, your design as an image. So in that case, you go to File, you go to Export, you go to Export for Screen, and here you have the options to export out your image as the case may be. So in this option, you have to export to where you want it to be, the parts where you want your design to be exported to. You have the PPI. Remember, PPI is pixel per inch. The more the PPI, the high res your image is going to be. You have the formats. You can have JPEG, SVG, PDF, but PNG is good because it is lossless, or depending on what you'd like to achieve. Another thing to note is this button right here, the settings or cog icon, is going to give you some options to further decide how you want your export to be. So in most cases, depending on what you want to do, because you are using, if you are going on the web, you are using this kind of design on the web browser, you want it to have a transparent background. So I'm going to go to, instead of white, I'm going to select transparent, so that when I export out this design, any part that does not have a shape is going to be exported out with a transparent background. So I'm going to save settings so that we don't waste so much time. I'll just hit export artboard. So when you do that, by default, it's telling me that the export location is invalid. That is because I deleted the part of my last job I did. So I'm going to select downloads, select the folder, and when I hit export, it's going to export out, as you can see here. And when it's done, it's going to show me where the file is exported to. So remember, I was using 300 PPI, and that is why it created a folder called 300 PPI. So I can open in the folder and I can now see my design. Remember that the artboard was just floating in the middle of the page, but now we have our artboard and you can see it is crystal clear. That is because I used 300 ppi. So you can see the background is transparent, and at 100% we have a very crisp design. The same for this guy, but it seems this guy has a background at the back, which is causing this white space that we are seeing here. And for this guy, it's just the shape at the back filled the complete image, so we cannot see any transparent part of our image. So that's basically it. And any question for me? Hello? I hope I've not been speaking to myself.
None at the moment. No questions so far.
No question. I'm cool.
Okay. Miriam? Kwasi? Okay, so if there's no question, any feedback?
Well, the lesson has been an exposure, because so sometimes ago I tried sitting with Corel Draw, and I was trying to explore myself. So on the course of the training, so I got to realize the things I did wrong in those process of learning, and I think I can replicate some of these things.
Okay, fantastic. So we also run a paid class. Should you be interested, it is actually very fluid. If you are interested, when you reach out to us, we are going to discuss the payment plan and what is going to cost you. For the paid class, we are going to run through 5 projects. You're going to choose a project you want to work on, be it logo design, Illustrator, illustration, any kind of design you want to work on. You're going to present about 5 designs, and we're going to run through the process together, and we're going to cover some more advanced parts of Illustrator. There are some other things that you can do here, like the 3D parts where you can get 3D text, and some other cool stuffs around here. So should you be interested, we can also go into that. But outside the class, should you have further queries, further issues you'd like to discuss, you can always put it in the group. We'll be able to help, and we can discuss further outside the class.